Beware, you're in for a scare.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, childrens of all ages, time for another little fireside chat. Live this time. Last time we had the great Lloyd Kaufman, and now we're going a little bit of a different direction. And this man has been at it professionally. I won't say 30 more than 35 years because then never mind. We that'll get me in trouble if I go down that lane of the road. Most people know him best or his work best because of over 100 Goosebumps covers of the OG series from the 90s on. Mr. Tim Jacobus, how are you, sir?
What's happening? How are you today?
Good to see you again, sir.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll ask this because I just asked as I was getting everything going, sir. How did GalaxyCon go for you? And are you surprised that you get invited to these type of shows?
Yeah.
No, I say that because most people don't get in the art.
And I mean this, and I don't mean this in any other way other than I can't believe they keep inviting me. Yeah. This whole thing of going to cons, I thought was, I had to be talked into it at first. I didn't think there were people that were there to see me. And now that I've been going, it's really great. It's really great to see people face to face. And this last GalaxyCon, I hadn't done the one in Columbus, and it's super well attended. And there's something about Columbus, Ohio. The people are super nice.
Yeah, and where I was going with that when you started laughing was most people think when conventions, GalaxyCon, and they do shows across the country, not just Columbus, they, is a little more broad and open where they will invite, say, the artists and voice actors and, everybody across the board. So that kind of fits being an artist like yourself, but it's nice to hear that the crowds are happy to see you.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
but you're right. And I think most people have the misnomer that because the name is Comic-Con, that you're only going to see comic book people or comic book related stuff. And you're absolutely right. It's expanded so much over the years that it's all forms of entertainment.
Absolutely. And would you say there's other, and by the way, I should preface this as well. I should have said this before the first question. We have some in the Zoom room, but we're also on Facebook Live. If anybody has questions, whatever, let me know. We'll get them up, especially if you're in the Zoom room. But, do you see other artists for books as well? Or what kind of folks do you usually see and interact with at these shows?
So that is something that I come from the paperback book market. I don't see a lot of my former colleagues from there yet, but I think it's just another niche that they haven't exploited yet because there's, again, it's an untapped market. Mostly the people I see are the comic book artists, and it's guys that either almost all of them I've known of their work from the past, and now they're there, and I get a chance to meet them face to face and shake hands and share horror stories with.
Absolutely. Ray, you said you had something. I believe you were telling me earlier, compliment, question. I know you were doing your homework earlier, Ray. What do you got?
I don't have homework, but I'm glad to.
No, I said you were doing your homework earlier.
Yeah.
Take the earplugs out. No.
Yeah. Tim Jacobus, I wanted to tell you, man, amazing work on your artwork, dude. I like it, man. The Say
Thanks.
Cheese and Die to everything, dude. I'm a fan of that stuff. I grew up watching it as a kid. Even the TV series and the books. I looked at them at book fairs, but always wanted to get one. My sister got the books, but at the time, but she supported you for the artwork and all that stuff.
Well, thanks. Is that your older sister?
Young sister.
Younger sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray is close in that sweet spot for when he was of the age, as was
Absolutely.
I.
Yeah. I
That,
love that work. It's pretty
with the
good.
book and stuff. But do you have a question, Ray, or did you just want to give him the?
Yeah, dude. I wanted to ask him, how did you go about your artwork, and how you do like get into wanting to do it, dude? I'm just curious.
Well,
Like,
I liked to draw when I was a kid. I'm old enough to where nobody really talked about doing art as a career. It was just something you did on the side. I wasn't. I was in my senior year of high school before I was exposed to art as a career. I went to a commercial art class just to fill up my schedule to finish out my course studies, and it just changed the way I looked at everything. And I had already signed up to go to a college here in New Jersey, and I went back to my dad and told him I wanted to go to art school. So
wow.
switch gears, and I thought I was going to be an album cover artist because albums were the way we listened to music when I was in high school. And when I got to art school, they're like, yeah, that's cool, but they put out a whole lot more books than they do albums. So maybe you should broaden your horizons. So that was, and I had a teacher who was a paperback illustrator. And yeah, I was in his back pocket for 3 years. I picked his brain, and yeah, he gave me a lot of the foundation I needed to be able to go in to New York and knock on doors and pound the pavement until you get that first book.
Right on. Ray, thank you, sir. Ray, I think he froze. Oh, there you are. He's back. Thank you, Ray.
No problem.
But Mr. White from the heart of
Well,
Texas.
thank you,
What do you
Tim
got, buddy?
Jacobus.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Bob, what do you got?
Well, hello, and it's good to see you again. I believe I saw you in San Antonio last.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you, but the crowd was a little busy at the time. But how did you first get involved with Mr. Stine?
So I had worked a couple of years at Scholastic doing one-off covers, no series work, and I had done some kid-based work, mostly mysteries, a little bit of science fiction. And when the Goosebumps thing came along, I wasn't a horror guy, and I didn't think I was the right fit. But one of the art directors saw something in my work that they thought would really lend itself to RL style. He didn't choose me, I didn't choose him. We were paired together by the book company themselves. And what was great was it was one of those things that just naturally worked. We didn't there's not a lot of communications between authors and illustrators, so there's indirect conversations, and there was something about what I got from him that I could see I could see his covers real quick and easily. So we did covers for probably, I'll bet you I did 20 covers before we were standing in the same room together and I shook his hand. So,
Oh, wow.
the idea that there's this, he would call me up and give me details. Yeah, that never happened. And of course, in the 90s, no social media, no email. So either you call on the phone on a landline or I wrote him a letter. Those are my two options.
Right. Well, that is awesome how y'all came together.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. But I didn't think about this. But I don't think I even thought about it when we had our conversation a couple of years ago. But what's I know with Goosebumps and stuff, you did huge portraits with your painting and
Yep.
the FedEx story and all, which it's funny that he would have to sometimes. I won't say they do this now post 9/11. I won't say this. But there might have been, hey, come around back to the garage door, and we'll get your package out once they found out what you were doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the best tip I ever got because I was at that back door a number of times.
Absolutely. But I guess the big thing for me is technology. How did that affect you? Because obviously you went from drawing these big portraits, would have to ship them to Scholastic, everybody approve, and all that fun stuff, and go from there. But how did technology help you, but also hurt you in your artwork and what you did as professionally?
Yeah, that so good question. So pretty late in the series for Goosebumps, digital art was making its way through the into the scene. And what the book publisher saw was the the use of digital art was going to be a real big cost savings. Not that they paid less for the artwork, but it eliminated a number of steps that had to happen when you had paintings. Paintings needed to be shipped, then paintings needed to be photographed by professional photographers, then that photography needed to be made into transparencies, then it went to the printer, where when you get that digital art, that's going right to the printer. We skip all those photography middle steps. So what they did was they told us all, this was probably 2003. They gave us a 24-month window and said, you all need to learn how to do digital art. We'll no longer be accepting traditional paintings anymore. And it's kind of, if you'd like to continue to do book covers, you have to figure out this technology. Now, I had no, it's funny now, we're all so used to having, high powered phones in our pockets and nice monitors and good computers. But at that point, there was none of that. And the idea that I was going to stop doing this whole set of skills that I had spent 15 years learning how to do and just kind of pushing them aside and picking up a rock and try to create new art. It was a bit overwhelming. I was not thrilled. I didn't go into it with enthusiasm. I was bummed. And, the computer that you bought in 2003 had very little RAM, very little memory. And it was very, very, very frustrating at first. And, but most of us, there were guys that were incredible artists that I remember who, when they were given this ultimatum, said, that's it. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. I didn't have that luxury. And, so just learning how to do it was, a must do. So, just kind of hit my head against it for a while and slowly but surely figured it out.
There's three things that I picked up there. And first one is, and this goes back into when you were first brought on and the series was starting. I'm not the IRS. I don't give two shits. It's not my right, but not my business. I do not care. It has nothing to do with me. But they asked you to take a lower, because it was we don't know where this series is going. It might not do well, etc. And you found it as a fun challenge. So you come on, and it was a blessing in disguise. But I guess the first part there is knowing your value as an artist, because it's not like, say, you're a plumber, you work at McDonald's flipping burgers, you're doing, like, say, regular jobs, quote unquote, where, there's certain, I'll give you this an hour, and you know what I'm saying? So how do you know your value as an artist to say, well, this will take me, let's say, a week to do the cover, because I know you used to do things fast
Yep.
paced.
Yep.
How do you know your value to say, hey, I'll do this for you, but I expect this in return? How does that work for you?
You talk with other artists and you see what the market will bear. People are generally the clients are generally pretty cool about it. If you have an open discussion with them, you can be one of those people who goes in and drops a very high price when they say, hey, how much do you want to do this? And then, people generally get, like you kind of start to make a there's a little friction already starting, and you haven't even talked about the creative part yet. So I like to approach it more of, hey, I know you guys have a budget. I've been paid all kinds of different things. And that's really true, where there are people I work with who I know don't have a high budget, but I like the project, and I'll go into it knowing that I'm going to get paid less. And then there's other jobs where I know that the budget's going to be good and I'm not thrilled about what we're doing, or the deadline is going to be one of those deadlines that's going to keep me up all night. So I'm happy they have extra money in their pocket. So it's not really cast in stone, like you say, like a plumber, where you go, hey man, I make $85 an hour. That's what I charge. It takes me this long. Here's the bill. So there's a little bit of fluctuation in pricing.
And before I go into the other two that I was thinking, Bob had something else. Bob, what do you got? There you
Oh,
go.
I was wondering, do you have a favorite project that you've ever done? One that just speaks to you more than any of the others.
That's a good question. Let's see. I know I'm going to think of one as we move forward. I did so when I was in art school, so this is 78 through 1980. Frazetta was the big artist that we all followed, and just were just all over his work. And Stephen King was the biggest name. He was like the first really giant named author. So, where his name sold books, where now that's kind of, we all got used to that. But Stephen King was that first guy where, unless you were a literary person, you knew his name and you knew of his work. So when I was in art school, I was like, hey man, what's your goal? Get on a Stephen King cover. That was it. That was it. So I got, I did the Goosebumps stuff, and got a little name for myself, and I was working on other things. And I got approached by, I think it was HarperCollins, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember the publisher. But what they were doing was taking 3 of Stephen King's novels, putting them together in one giant hardback, and letting me do the cover. It was Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining. So it was 3 heavy-hitting Stephen King stuff. And I got a chance to do that cover. I did my version of The Shining. And just to hammer it home one more time why it's a cool project to me, was if there's a human figure on the cover, I'll usually take a quick photograph, for lighting and adjustment, and, try to bring some realism to it. So for the character on the front cover of The Shining, I turned the camera around on me. So not only did I paint that cover, I'm on that cover.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Right on. Thank you, Bob. So with you were talking about the changes in the technology and stuff, as far as they give you this window and such, and you obviously had learned the technology eventually and stuff, and sometimes the technology catches up to what you want to do, like you were saying about the RAM and all that fun stuff. And Bob will laugh because he knows I got the shipment I got yesterday for tech stuff. So he's chuckling because I was telling him about that, being a former techie that he is. So, but is there any, with what, obviously you did the original run for Goosebumps, but and the technology changed, but was there, or is there use for the training you had the 15 years prior, coming out of art school and things like that? Do you still use that, the old school method we'll go with?
Oh, absolutely. The approach to the art isn't different. The part that got different was the application of the color to the artwork. Uh, all my stuff, whether it's traditional or digital, starts on my desk with a piece of paper and a pencil. So all my drawings are still done in the traditional fashion. And my sketches are pretty tight. I'll get my sketches approved. And then, where in the early days I would then move to the canvas, now I scan that drawing and the color work is done inside the computer. So all the stuff that I learned about composition and drawing and color theory and all that stuff still applies. It's just I've moved from stuff being wet to being pixels. So again, most of your art training is still there. What ends up happening at first is you're just not comfortable with the tools. You don't know what the advantages are. So you're trying to use a new tool, but you're not using it in a way, you're still using it like you use your traditional stuff. Eventually you learn your way, and then things start to, first they start to look the way you want them to. Then you start to discover all new tricks that you can do in this new environment that you could never do in the traditional environment. So it goes from being a a liability to being an asset, and then you start to be able to do new things, and now your art takes on a whole different look. So the I think it's really great for people to have the ability to do both, because it'll give you a broad spectrum of what you can do, and then that hybrid area between some traditional and some digital together can give you some really, really interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Latrice, she's also in the heart of Texas. And the ironic part about this as well, for me anyway, me and Latrice were kind of chatting. She was one of the first ones in the room. And she has a son that would be in the warehouse of the age gap for Goosebumps. But
Yeah.
Latrice, what do you have?
Well, my question was, I mean, I know you do the art for the books and all, but were you able to meet R.L. Stine at all?
So at first, like I said, it was a while before we got a chance to meet each other. And once I did meet him, he is a very sweet man, and so is his wife. And he started to include me in other stuff. So over the years, I've been to his apartment. I went to a trip to Disney World with him for a Goosebumps event. And
Wow.
Bob and I, we were down in San Antonio, Texas, and RL flew in just to come and hang out with us. So yeah, I call him a friend. I see him. I'd like to see him more, but the beauty of the digital world now is we do have our phones, and I text him regularly, and so yes, we are friends, and he's a super nice guy, and he's way funnier than most people think.
Did you do any artwork for his Shady Side books? Or
No, my stuff was strictly for the Goosebumps, and then he did he did a couple of graphic novels, and I got a chance to do some variant covers for those. But yeah, I didn't do the Shady stuff or Fear Street or any of those.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Latrice.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, so while we're live, and I just saw this, so Tim can talk about it if he wishes. I just so happened to check out your website again, and for the studios, which is your last name, studios.com. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, the thing that stood out for me, and I'll put a link out there for everybody if they want to visit the site, possibly have custom work done, etc. But you have posters for the Goosebumps artwork, and in the little section with that, it says that $10 from every sale help folks who are in need for food. Like, so how are you doing that? Is it going to a specific group, or what do you got going on there?
Yeah, so this started back during the pandemic. We all were wondering what was going to happen when we all got shut in, and it didn't affect us as hard as some other people, and started to see people on television, lining up to go to food banks. And right down the street from me, literally 3 blocks away, is a church, and they are the food bank for the town that I live in. And we started to notice more people showing up there. And it was just one of those things at the time. I said, well, let's see if we can, because I hadn't been selling the Goosebumps posters yet. And I said, well, let's get some prints, let's sell them, and we'll split the difference. The prints run about $20, and we'll give half to the food bank, and we'll keep the other half. And let's see if we can do something. And I really thought it was just going to be a handful, like we'd be taking a couple of bags over. And the response has been incredible. People buy posters consistently and regularly. We've been doing this we're nearing our 5-year mark. And every month, once a month, we fill up the back of the pickup truck. And we've been able to supply the food bank with a ton of food, and they're super thrilled with us. And there's, it's 100% of your $10 goes to that. There's no administration fees. There's no nothing. I cut the $10 right out of there. We see how much money we have. We get Walmart to deliver the food to the house, and then we just send it down the street. We just made a delivery this Saturday, and it's something that, when we started it, it was something you did because you thought you would, we're helping other people. And then, we both it's me and my son, and I think we get more out of it than anybody else does, because it feels good to help people out.
Absolutely. And like I said, I will be sharing the website publicly. You can get your prints, do all the ordering. Everything's real easy there. So we'll set you up with that. And it's still helping good folks.
Yeah, yeah. We're still at it. We're almost at our 5-year mark. And we're gonna keep at it until we can't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought that was a good little thing that you're doing, and especially
I appreciate you letting me mention it here.
Yeah, no, and obviously, we're not going to get political, but it stood out because of a couple months ago with everything that was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And and as you would think, when we went at the beginning of last month, there was noticeably more people there and noticeably more people there in line to sign up to be eligible to get some of the food. So, it's it's direct cause and effect and direct one-to-one. So what, the food is going, it gets right out the door to the people who need it.
Absolutely. And hold on, let me pull up my notes. My thing went down. But are you are you surprised of the cultural impact of Goosebumps? Because obviously, like I said earlier, we don't have to tell that story. It's been told. Hey, we might get 3 or 4 episodes or books out of this, et cetera, et cetera. Are you surprised where things ended up going? Because you ended up with over 100 plus covers and stories. There ended up being a TV show, movies, just everything grew and grew. From your standpoint, just as the artist, are you surprised that that had happened?
Yes, the things that continue to happen, I think, are surprising me the most. That here you and I did my first book in 1990, 92, and here we are this many years later still talking about it, and when I go to conventions people still know it and are interested in it. That should have died off a long time ago. So every step of this thing has been a surprise that I got the chance to do the covers for 10 years and do 100 plus covers, and then to see movies come out years later, and now to be going to the cons and meeting people, all the time, and having them say, incredibly nice things, and that people are still looking at the artwork as being cool. It's not old and ironic yet. You know what I mean? It's, they still think that there's it still has a little bit of, still got some shine on it. So yes, I'm more surprised than probably anybody that, we're still talking about it and people are still into it.
Perfect example with GalaxyCon this past weekend out in Ohio. When fans came to see you, that came through your line, whatever the case may be, or at any other show, is there a particular book cover or project that they go, man, I love this? Is there something that stands out when they talk to you?
Yeah, that everybody, it's funny. Everybody has a specific book that they remember as either being the first one or the one that gave them was the one that was the most impactful on them. But there's 3 covers that I keep in the middle of the table because they're the 3 that people are attracted to the most. And that's the Haunted Mask, Night of the Living Dummy, and A Day at Horrorland. Those are the 3 big ones, with a close fourth of Say Cheese and Die. So I will sell many, 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 many more prints of those 4 than I will of anything else I put on the table.
Well, it's funny you say that. And I'm surprised Bob didn't bring this up. But Say Cheese and Die. I was doing a little homework and putting my notes together again last night. And it might have even been from that San Antonio show. I don't know. It didn't say. But there was a convention that you and RL were at, and the Say Cheese and Die story, where he kind of like pokes the bear, like the way when you mentioned his sense of humor, you could see that New York sense of humor. Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, and it's funny, it's a real story, and I didn't know that story until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So for 20 plus years, I always thought Say Cheese and Die was one of the top illustrations I did for Goosebumps. I thought it hit all the marks because Goosebumps, along with being horror books, there's also a great deal of humor in them. And I thought that book straddled that real nice where, it's slightly comical. It's a family of skeletons having a backyard barbecue. So you feel both ways. It's a little bit frightening and weird, but it's also a little bit funny. So I didn't know at the time that, so me and the art director come up with the idea. We finish up the painting. I'm very proud of it as it leaves my house. And they present the artwork to Bob, and he sees it and he's like, yeah, this is a good piece of art, but there's no family of skeletons barbecuing in my story. And the editor said to him, well, Bob, it's going to take a way longer time for Tim to repaint that painting. So you're going to have to find a place in that story and put a family of skeletons barbecuing in it. So he had to rewrite his story and wedge a dream sequence in there so that the story supported the artwork on the cover. And he will never let me live that down or forgive me for that.
Yeah, I just found it funny. And like I said, I saw that I never interacted with the man. I don't know him. I can't, but you could see the video.
He loves it. Especially if I'm sitting next to him. He loves it even more when I'm there.
That's why it worked. You were sitting right there with him on this panel, and you could see him just like poking the bear and having fun. And I'm from the Northeast as well. I'm a Jersey guy as well, and I you know what I mean. And
that's how we operate up here. That's right. It's a sign of love.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. But I saw it right away when he started telling, that's him. I'll maybe share that as well. But the other story that stood out for that, and if anybody's got questions, please let us know. Anything else? Don't want to keep Tim all night. But the other story that you told in that particular panel that I was watching, it was, the number keeps changing, or it might have been an interview. I was watching 2 or 3 different things. The number keeps changing. You thought you were at 100, excuse me. Yeah, 100. Never mind. We won't go there. But somebody would approach you. Hey, didn't you do this? Oh, yeah, I did do it, etc. So the number might increase a couple, whatever. But Scholastic had asked you to. There was 2 you missed. Like it was vacation or something, with your personal schedule that you.
Yes.
And they said, okay, no big deal. You were in at that point. But later on, they had asked you to, hey, would you like to recreate these 2 covers that you missed for whatever those reasons were? What actually happened there? That way you could, and the reason I'm asking this, folks, is they presented it with Tim. Well, you can actually say you did everything up until that point. So what actually happened with that?
So you're correct. There were 2 books in the first run that I didn't do. The first one was book number 2, Stay Out of the Basement. And the reason for that was, like I said earlier in our conversation just now, I didn't have any horror in my portfolio for them to go, oh, he'll be a good horror guy. So there was another illustrator named Jim Thiessen, who was an established horror guy, and they had him do book number 2, Stay Out of the Basement, and they let me do book number 1, Welcome to Dead House. And they were going to go into full production so they could see them done on the book. And then whoever they chose was going to do, like we talked about earlier, the other 2 books or other 4 books. It wasn't like it was anything big. And when we got done, and Jim's covers, it's incredible, but they just, the main concern with the series was whether it was going to be too scary or not. And they thought that my use of richer color, and Jim's work is a little bit more realistic. Well, actually, it's a lot more realistic than my work, and mine's a little more cartoonish. So they chose me just by my artwork was a little less threatening. So that's why I didn't do book number 2. And then you're correct that the book, I don't know what number it was, but it was called Be Careful What You Wish For. Yeah, I went on vacation with my ex-wife, and I needed to get away, and they said, sure, we'll just give the art to someone else. And so yeah, the series was over. It was long over. And so this was in 2005. I was working on something else, and the art director at Scholastic was the one who brought it up. And he's going, man, I was just going through all of these, and I saw that you didn't do this one. Just stay out of the basement and be careful what you wish for. And you did all the rest. I go, yeah, that's how it worked. He goes, well, we're redoing the covers now. How would you like to jump in and do those two? And then you can say I did them all. And that was great because I hadn't done a Goosebumps cover in a couple of years. It was, nice to be called out of the bullpen again and get a chance to do covers a couple of times, do 2 more new covers. And at that point, my digital art was becoming good enough to be presented, and it looks like my traditional stuff. So those 2 pieces, that's what sets them off, is that they're digital. But it was nice to go back and revisit them, and like you say, to be able to, without long explanation at a con, say, yes, I did all the original 62 of the classic Goosebumps.
And at least my final question, and like I said, if Matt, Ray, Bob, anybody wants to chime in before we call it a night. And actually, with the age gap thing, or not the age gap, but with the age specific material that the books were. Like I said, me and Ray would have fell into that, and maybe even Latrice would have fell into that during the initial run, that the books would have been within our age gap, per se. It's nice to see that Latrice now come full circle, and her son is in that age range. You know what I mean? That he can read the books and start to become a horror fan, or even just to read, because we want kids to read and all that stuff. But my final question is, and again, mention this earlier, I don't care about specifics, but with your deal with Scholastic, is it they own the property? Because, and the reason I'm asking this, because I heard about a musician going to Congress for a bill and things in music. But your deal with Scholastic, do they own the covers, the prints, the artwork you do? Or
Yes.
is that something where it's like, say, we'll give you X amount for, whatever the deal was, but you're entitled to royalties based off book sales and stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, deals are different now than they were in the 90s. Most of the book publishing business, you were strictly work for hire, which means here's the contract. This is what we're paying you for the cover. We'll pay you for, North American rights. So, we can do whatever we want with it in North America. And usually what they did, because we had traditional art, you would turn it in, they'd photograph it, they'd use it on the book, and a few months later you would get your artwork back. So but it was, you got paid once. Didn't matter if they sold 2 copies or 2 million copies. You got no
You got your
right. You got your check.
Yeah.
And then because Goosebumps got popular, what they then requested down the road, I got a raise halfway through the series. And then
nice.
They said, we want to buy the paintings, because in the 90s, getting reproductions of the paintings was a pain in the neck. Everybody's got an awesome scanner at their house now. But back then, that wasn't the case. So they said, so instead of us shipping these paintings back and forth to each other, we'd like to buy the paintings from you so that we have them here and we can get reproductions whenever we want. And at the time, I was thrilled. I was going to be making more money by selling the paintings. Now, all these years later, and while I'm sitting here now, man, do I wish I didn't sell them those paintings for what I sold them to. They would be worth way
Do you
more
own any of
now.
the paintings?
Yeah,
Do
so
you
they
own
have
any?
them all. Yes. So so no, I got no royalties. They have all the artwork, and so they do what they want with the artwork.
Yeah.
Now, it's fine. They paid me well. I'm not here to go boo hoo boo hoo. They were mean.
No, I'm not taking it that way.
But weird things happen. Okay, so here's a perfect example. We just did a book a couple of years ago called The Art of Goosebumps, and it's every Goosebumps cover I ever did is in one giant hardback book, and it illustrates basically my whole Goosebumps career. But the the book company who published it went to Scholastic, bought the rights to make that book, and they produced all that stuff. They didn't have to come to me. They didn't have to pay me. So there is a book about me and my art that's out there that I don't get any money from. So, but the other side of it is I can't get upset about that. There's a book with my name on it and all my art is out there and people get to see it. So you got to learn to just roll with stuff as it happens. I'm so happy that all the artwork exists in one book somewhere and that they did a good job. And I got copies of the book and I was able to sell the book for a while. But again, anybody can do whatever they want with my artwork. They only have to contact Scholastic, and I don't get any of that money.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, and besides the Goosebumps stuff, obviously that's what you're known for per se.
Yeah.
But is there anything else out there publicly? Because I know you had stuff BC and, not to get religious, BC and AD before, Goosebumps and after Goosebumps, obviously, because that's how you've made your living the past 35 or so years.
Yes.
Doing art. Is there anything that stands out besides custom pieces for you that?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I've done more books that aren't Goosebumps than are. I like we said, we're putting big round numbers on them. I did like 100 Goosebumps covers, but I probably did 400 book covers in total. So, but the interesting thing is most of them were one-offs. They weren't, they just didn't have the spark or the magic. And man, in the 90s, they put out a lot of paperbacks. So my art is on the oddest things. But what's fun now is my art now is, it's got a little nostalgia to it, and I get asked to do things now, and they're super fun projects, and it puts my artwork out in front of different people. There is a ski company called Armada, and if you're a skier, they're top drawer stuff, and they have 3 professional athletes that work for them and wear their equipment, but they're their ambassadors. And each one of these guys had a nickname. The lion, the hound dog, and the gremlin. And then they reached out to me and let me do custom art that they put on the skis that represent these guys. And I saw these guys, and I'm a skier, so it was cool to see these guys competing wearing skis with my artwork on it. So, there's all these side projects that happen that just happen because of the popularity of Goosebumps. So, I hope there's more stuff like that comes along, and I continue to do it. It doesn't matter how big or how popular it is. If the project sounds like fun, I'm still going back to what we said earlier. I'll take a cut and pay if it looks like something fun, and I'll do it just because it's going to be fun.
All right. Well, my last 2 questions, I know I've said that, but it just rattles things off.
It's good. I'm not going anywhere. I got nowhere to go.
No, it's just, there's just, it rattles things off, which I always say I have the circus monkey brain with the symbols. You're right. Yeah. And the regulars who are in the Zoom room will tell you he absolutely does. So Bob's shaking his head even though he's muted. He absolutely knows what I'm talking about. Uh, but is there something, because you said a couple of times now about things that interest you, is there something right on in your head that you would like to try to do on the art side of things before you hang it up? If you ever hang it up.
Yeah, no, it's what. Well, that's one thing for sure. I don't. There's. It's not. It's not like I'm a professional athlete and my knees are going to give out
Or
and
you're out
I gotta
digging
retire.
ditches and
Yeah, this is going to be something I do all the way until until either I'm blind or I'm gone. And because I still get the same thrill doing the artwork now. So I shouldn't age out of it. And maybe I'll be doing it just for myself at some point. Maybe people won't be interested in what I do when I'm 85, but no, I'll do this forever. And I've been lucky enough to get on so many projects. There's not a holy grail out there for me where I go, the thing I really want to do is this. I'd love to do some other, some famous horror properties would be fun to do. Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, any of the super solid established horror stuff would be fun to do a piece for them in my style. But I could just do that on my own. I don't have to wait to be called to do that. But no, there's not. I like the ones that are just off center and they're reaching out to me and I have to do something that's different. Example, in October of this year, the Kelsey brothers, which are two former NFL athletes. One of them is marrying Taylor Swift. They have their own beer company called Garage Beer. And they were releasing a lime flavored beer. And they were both Goosebumps fans as kids. And they wanted me to do a piece of artwork of the two of them coming out of a haunted garage in the Goosebumps style that would help promote this new lime flavored beer. And that was a blast. It was so much fun. And that's a crazy crossover. I got some NFL famous people in there. I'm still doing a Goosebumps style, and I got free beer. That free beer thing, I'll do. That's going to change my mind every time.
So, did you deal with them directly, or was it their people getting a hold of you?
No, there was a chance that I was going to get a chance to meet Jason, but because he lives in Philly, I'm in Jersey, so there was a chance. But no, I dealt with Corey, who was he's their main marketing guy at the beer company. So
yeah, I figured because of the close proximity,
yeah, we got close, but yeah, it just didn't line up.
Yeah, and I will say this: they're not a sponsor, but the beer is good. I have tried.
The beer is good, right? I know.
Yeah.
I got it for free. I figured I'd finish what they gave me, and that would be it. And now I keep restocking. So yeah. They got a new fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were talking about the conventions and stuff, and you were laughing when we are starting there at the beginning of this. But do you have a schedule for appearances coming up because I know conventions are kind of winding down at this point for the year, beginning of December. But are you booked for shows coming up in 26?
Yes. Usually you do all your booking at this time of year for the following year. You're right. The con that was in Columbus last weekend was the last one of 2025. I think at this point, I think I have about a dozen shows booked for 2026. And so, yeah, we'll be back on the road again. And looking forward to going back out. And actually, it's really nice to know that I will be home until January 18th. So I'll have about a month of hanging out at the house. So
You know, it's funny, Tim. I was just thinking of this too. Again, circus monkey brain happening here. It's not the whiskey, folks, but
Tullamore Dew,
there,
it's good whiskey.
it's beautiful. It's funny. I actually usually have a shot glass with Tulip that they sent me, but they won't send a check for the sponsorship since we talk about it. No. All
Hey,
right?
listen,
They'll
man.
send, they
I've
send
been
me free
wearing
bottles.
Converse sneakers for years and putting them in the paintings. I never got a free pair of sneakers. Never.
Nothing, right? Yeah, you sons of bitches. No, I gotta watch how I do this. No, but what was I going with that? Yeah. Oh, it's funny with the shows. That's where I was going to go with this. Thank you, Circus Monkey Brain. No, there's another artist I deal with. Who's become a buddy, and he did things for like video games and things like that, the electronic side of things, and had the same reaction you did with getting invited to conventions and stuff. He was involved with the Mortal Kombat series.
Yep.
Was his claim to fame, let's say. And his thing is when he gets invited to conventions, he tries to book the trip a day before, day after, whatever the case is. And he likes to go to museums.
Mm.
He's a history museum guy. Is there something you like to do that around the shows you're booked for that? Hey, hey, if I'm gonna go here, I like to maybe take 2-3 hours, go see this, or go. You know what I mean? Is there something you'd like to do because of the fortunate blessing you have?
It's really great that we do get a chance to that. So all of us artists, we've spent our whole life sitting behind our desk and creating art and going nowhere. And now to be invited to a con and just hop on a plane and go someplace, I wish I took more advantage of it. I also am an art director at a small company, and we're corporate, and I always wait to the last minute to fly to the show, and I'm always on the plane Sunday night to be back home for Monday morning. So the amount of stuff that I get a chance to see is limited, but I always, try to get out and, at least get to the good restaurants and get to the good places to go. But I would wish I had more time to do museums. I was in Savannah, Georgia about a month ago, and there's so much to see there. And I didn't know anything about Savannah, and they have that same feel that like Salem, Massachusetts has. It's got a lot of old buildings, haunted buildings, cool ghost stories, very interesting architecture. And so what I found is if I hit a city and I see something I like, if I get invited back, I'll try to get in there a day early or leave a day late and pick up on some of the cool stuff that you get a chance to see.
Food in Savannah out here is magnificent because you said you like to try to go out to eat or whatever at some point. Is there a place you haven't been to that you like to go, whether it's a convention or whatever the case is?
Convention wise, the big one that I haven't gone to just because it's the one that's going to take the most effort is San Diego. It's the biggest con, and it's the farthest away, and it costs the most, and you got to take the most days. And so I did sign up. So I got married in 1980 in Kodiak, Alaska. And I haven't been back to Kodiak since that year. And I just recently reached out to the people who run the Alaska Comic-Con that's in Fairbanks. And I'm hoping to get on the list and head up there again. So if I get a chance to go to Alaska, I'm not going to be foolish enough to not take some extra days on either end and get a chance to see some of the stuff that I vaguely remember seeing when I was there.
Yeah, and I'll have to introduce you to Paul because Paul seems to have all the spots. He says,
"Yeah, all right, that's cool."
Especially
if he knows the cultural stuff, because I'm sure he's picking on stuff that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, but he's a guy. If I say, "Hey, And there's somebody in the horror world afterwards that if I say, "Hey, you've been to here," he'll say, "Go to this restaurant.
There you go.
This
Cool.
bar's good.
Yeah,
this bar's good. This
That's
is here.
good.
This is
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a connection.
you-
That's a good connection. Absolutely.
But I'll have to introduce you to Paul.
All
Tim,
right.
before I say goodnight, please, especially because I mentioned the Goosebump prints and
Yep.
helping the community. What is your website? Where can people find you if they wish to do so?
Yes. So it's jacobusstudios.com. If you forget that, just go and put my name into Instagram and you can find your way back there. We sell 2-size prints. $10 from every sale goes to purchasing food for the food bank down the street. Every month we fill the pickup truck, and I thank everybody who's participated in that. You are actually making a difference. Thank you.
Jacobus, thank you so much. Everybody have a good rest of your night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.